Hello everyone, I want to welcome you to today's webcast on transitioning from old to new contact center reporting, which will be presented by industry experts from Ventana Research and VPI. My name is Lauren Hughes and I'll be your host today. And just to let you all know, to avoid interruptions, we've placed all attendees in listen-only mode. So if you have any questions during the webcast, please feel free to type them in the question box on your screen, and we'll definitely try to answer as many of your questions as possible at the end of the webinar within the allotted hour. We will be requesting your feedback on an audience participation poll during the webinar and also a brief survey after the webinar, and I thank you in advance for your participation with that. So introduce the basis of our discussion. Today's toughening business landscape dictates that contact centers revamp their goals, processes, and performance measures to improve the profitability of customer interactions. Ventana Research's latest benchmark research of 273 leading organizations shows that traditional reporting methods are at odds with the current era focus on customer satisfaction and first call contact resolution. Transitioning away from the inefficient spreadsheets and siloed reports requires strong leadership and clear strategy. So it is my pleasure today to introduce Richard Snow from Ventana Research. Richard leads Ventana Research's Contact Center Performance Management Research practice, which is dedicated to helping organizations improve the efficiency and effectiveness of multi-channel contact centers. Richard conducts research exploring the people and process issues behind customer operations management, the new customer interaction technologies now available to support customer interaction management, ways in which companies are reviewing their strategies for customer relationship management, or rather CRM, and the emergence of its second generation. Richard has more than 25 years experience working in the IT services industry, including services with eLoyalty, Price Waterhouse, SEMA Group, and Valoris. I'm also pleased today to introduce Patrick Boats from VPI. Patrick Boats serves as the Vice President of Workforce Optimization for VPI, which is the leading provider of contact center reporting, quality monitoring, and workforce optimization solutions. Leveraging more than a decade of field experience as a contact center practitioner, Patrick works very closely with customers to capture, analyze, and improve their mission-critical customer interactions. He received his bachelor's in engineering from Arizona State University and also his MBA from Pepperdine University in California. Just to give you a little background on VPI, VPI is an established company with a rich 15-year history of providing exceptional service and solutions to over 1,300 customers, of which including 1-800-Flowers.com, AAA, AT&T, Banner Health, also CNN, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, IBM, and also Delta Airlines. VPI has several offices throughout North America and multiple sales and support partners throughout the world. As you'll see on your screen, in a recent Ventana Research study that compared contact center agent performance management and reporting vendors, VPI rated #1, highest overall in the customer assurance category, and achieved the highest top vendor rating. So that's neat information. So today you will learn how new contact reporting can help you rapidly identify and solve your critical business and customer experience issues. Richard from Ventana Research will discuss how traditional spreadsheet reporting and excessive focus on cost can undercut your business potential and why slow-to-change contact centers are at risk. Richard will also review the business case for and proven ROI of real-time reporting and analytics and provide strategic recommendations and best practices for use of analytics to improve your business processes, also operational efficiency and decision-making, as well as performance. Patrick from VPI will then share proven call center reporting implementation best practices and how two leading organizations successfully implemented real-time reporting on their contact centers. So before we get started, we'd like to request your participation on a poll, which reporting technologies you are currently using in your contact center. So as you'll see on your screen, there are different choices to choose from. Which reporting technologies do you use regularly? So if each of you can take a moment and just check off what may apply to you, that would be great. We have the options of spreadsheets, homegrown reporting software, contact center performance management software, enterprise reporting software, and standard PBX ACD dialer reports. So now that we're taking a look at the results, it looks like the technologies that are being most used currently are Spreadsheets, standard PBX ACD dialer reports, and then contact center performance management software. So with that said, that gives us a little bit more info on today's discussion, and I'm pleased to welcome Richard with Ventana Research to begin.
I'm going to talk to you for the next 20-25 minutes about how companies are transitioning from old-style reporting in contact centers to some of the new techniques. I'm going to base a lot of what I say around the research that Lauren mentioned, and I'll reflect back on the poll results as well as we go through. When we carry out our research, we look to create a maturity model. Now, a lot of other consultants and analyst firms talk about best practices, and we kind of think that best practice is probably relative to your own organization. What the maturity of contact centers does is allow us to create a model of what the industry is doing today and what it's planning to do tomorrow, both in terms of technology and the practices that it's using to implement that technology. So rather than defining it strictly as best practice, it's giving a model, because what we find when we talk to a lot of folks like yourselves is that, and we'll see again this in the results, that a lot of folks are quite happy with what they've got and a bit reticent about moving on to some new technologies because they're concerned whether this is actually proven, whether it's been used. Well, what the maturity model does, it says, well, this is what people are doing today. This is some folks that are actually doing something a little more advanced, right up until what we call the innovative level, which demonstrates that some people are using the most advanced techniques available today and are gaining the results. So what you can get from the from that report is a comparison with where you are yourselves today, and say, well, actually, I do want to move forward, and people have moved forward, and these have been proven. So there is success that I can build on. Okay, building the model might sound complex, but underneath it all, it's actually really quite a simple process. What we do when we ran the research into the use of contact center reporting and analytics, what we did is we classified each response to the answer and each option as either being a tactical response, an advanced or strategic or innovative response. Just to give you an example so you're clear on how this works, when we were asking about which measures do you use, one of the answers was that we're measuring average handling time, and I'm sure you're all doing that, and we'll continue to do that. But we consider that as a tactical measure. But one of the other options was measuring the lifetime value of customers, and we consider that an innovative response. So we did this across the whole survey of about 40 questions, and the 273 respondents that we used, we then basically can aggregate all of those responses into the different levels of tactical, advanced, strategic, and innovative, and thus create a model about what companies are doing today, what they're planning to do. And we do that across people, process, information, and technology, so that we can see both how people are doing it and what technologies they're using and what information they're getting from those technologies. So I don't have time, unfortunately, today to go through the whole report and all the responses. So what we can do is separate out the different models. And so what I've done here is I've separated out the model for the use of technology. Now, what you can see in this model is a fairly flat picture, and in fact, a picture which in many ways is much more to the right than in many of the pictures we get, in that the results showed us that in terms of the use of technology, a lot of people, 32% of companies have advanced up to the strategic level, and nearly 20% have actually gone up into the innovative level. So here's an example of where the overall model is saying, well, if you were at the tactical or maybe the advanced levels, then the market, other companies have moved ahead, and they are making use of advanced technologies to produce their contact center reports. And if we dig into that, then one of the big contributing questions to that model, and now you might see where the poll came from, is what actual technology companies were using. And just in the same way as from our quick poll with yourselves, the number one technology used, it was spreadsheets. And in fact, ours was probably just slightly less than you came out of yourself. But as you can see, you have the custom build, you have using the BI enterprise, certainly you have contact center specific tools, all the way down to predictive analytics. And what I've done is I've colored each of those so you have the information about which we consider as tactical in the blue, through the advanced in red, the green at strategic level, and the two that we had at the innovative level, which was using a specific tool and using predictive analytics. Now this again gives you the detail which says that companies have moved on. Although spreadsheets are very common, companies have moved on and are beginning to implement contact center specific products and things like predictive analytics. But we can't get away from the fact that today spreadsheets are the most dominant tool being used. In fact, when we dig a little further into the results, we were actually asking how extensively they were used within organizations. And as you can see, that we had 31% of respondents saying they use them universally, and another 59% that use them very regularly. So the use of spreadsheets is the dominant technology used today, and it is used very extensively today. But just referencing back to that model and your own examples, companies have moved on and are beginning to use different technologies. And what we want to look at in the rest of the presentation is what they're doing. One of the things that we always ask is that if people are actually happy with the technology they're using. And what you can see here is perhaps a confusing model which says, well, actually, in terms of very satisfied, there's 38% are very satisfied with what they're using, bearing in mind that that's a lot of spreadsheets, and so another 38% are somewhat satisfied, and only 20% are not satisfied. And this is, I think, reflects back on and what I was saying earlier, in that we found in general in terms of the adoption of new technologies. If you're using a technology and it's producing what you want today, then you tend to be satisfied with it and don't look very far at new technologies. But as you can see, there is a significant percentage that recognize that what they're doing is not satisfactory, and they want to look for alternatives. So what we're all doing with this technology is very clearly about producing analytics. So I wanted to take an analysis, key reports, and metrics about how the centers are operating. So I wanted to give you an insight into what people are doing as it came out of the research. So we were interested in what are the most common financial metrics. How do you judge the financial success of the contact center? And here is a reflection back to what Lauren said, and no doubt in your own organizations, is that right on top of the agenda is cost, and whether the cost is actually in line with the budget. And that's we found. In fact, I found over 7 years of carrying out similar sorts of results, research, that this is very common and has been this way for at least 7 years. And again, both of those are right down at the end of the maturity model. As you know, looking at cost against budget is something everything does. It's very tactical. And And if you look at the financial model that we said was the most innovative, which was understanding how much it costs to support each customer. So being able to collect together the cost of handling every call, every email together, so that you could actually see the true cost of handling customer interactions. And indeed, 34% of companies have and do look at this measure. So again, this is saying, well, you know, if your model is that all I'm looking at is cost versus budget, I would like to look at some of these things like profitability and sales and support cost per customer, some of the more advanced financial metrics, then indeed, you know, companies are out there using technology to produce those numbers. We also looked at the as we call it, the most common process metrics. And this has been absolutely true for the last 7 years, and no doubt is just as true in all of your organizations. But the top metric, operating metric on the shop floor, if you like, of the contact center is average call handling time and volumes of interactions that are handled. Now again, we consider those both as very tactical measures. But what has changed, and again this has had a significant impact on the model in the last research, is that first contact resolution has kind of jumped into the top 3. Didn't really see it much over the last 7 years, but it's become a very hot topic for people, and companies are now getting very focused on trying to understand not just how long it took to handle a call, but was the outcome of the call to the customer satisfaction? Did that call, that contact get resolved the first time? Because this is really what customers want when they call up. They want an answer to their problem, their question. But in terms of the innovative, then 35%, about a third of people are saying they've actually started to implement desktop analytics to understand how agents are using the desktop to solve those calls. And this is giving them a picture about how the whole process of handling calls is working. You know, what systems people are using, how long it takes to get the data, how long it, and being able to see just that profile of calls. And that's giving them the insight to say, well, I can look at different parts of a call, the introduction, identifying a problem, resolving the problem. I can look at those different parts, understand where the time's being spent, and maybe go away and look at how I can improve certain areas. Now that's the most common metrics down on the shop floor and those processes, but we actually asked the executives that responded what they were interested in. And here we have quite a different picture. I mean, call handling time is still there, and a lot of other of the tactical measures like agent utilization and how many cases have been opened and closed are still there. But right on the top of the pile for your executives, your bosses, is that they want to now understand customer satisfaction scores. This has become their most important aspect, and we believe this is being driven by the current market situation where retaining customers and keeping customers happy basically is of more importance now than it's ever been. And so your bosses are much more interested in customer satisfaction scores. And you could say that that is part of what we call the most innovative metrics for executives, which is understanding the outcome of calls. So it's not just saying, well, you know, calls took 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. The executives are now looking to say, well, of all those calls that we took, you know, what was the outcome? You know, did we retain a customer? Did we sell him more? Did we make him satisfied? Did we do it the first time? And so what's coming from the executive is a slightly different need to what's being measured on the shop floor. And this, again, is something else that's pointing to the need to look at both the technology and the metrics being produced into the contact center so it becomes more relevant to the business and satisfies this need from executives. Now, here we come to the real heart of a major problem in a contact center. To produce all of those metrics, you need to get at the data. And as you're probably aware, contact centers produce a mass of data. And in fact, the volumes are just going up and up and up. But it's not just the volume that's an issue. It's the type of data and the type of systems. And so as you look through the chart here, you'll recognize that you've got data in workforce optimization systems, the quality monitoring, workforce management training. You've got call recordings, you've got information coming from your ACD, PBX, IVR. You need data from, your billing system, your CRM. You even need to pull data from spreadsheets. If it's not stored anywhere else, then you need to get it from spreadsheets. So to produce all those metrics, the world was telling us, here's a big issue. We need to get all of this data, and it's in different formats and different degrees of difficulty of being able to access that data. And again, going back to the most innovative sources, again, was the, about half of companies here saying we want to get at the desktop usage. We want to understand how the agents are using their desktop. And right down the bottom, as I'm sure you're all aware, the new phenomenon is that I want to collect data from social media so I can understand what my customers are saying about me on social media sites and feed that into my whole customer service process. So here at the heart of this problem about producing new metrics is this big issue of how to access all this data. Now again, as no doubt all of you are aware, you operate in pretty much a real-time environment. Calls are coming in all the time. If it's not calls, you're trying to handle emails. Maybe some agents are using instant messaging. Things are happening all the time. And so far more than any other business unit, there's a real need for real-time metrics. And it's not just metrics that say queue lengths have got too long. It's metrics about, what agents available, what callers are calling about, how agents are handling calls. I mean, if an agent's not making a very good job at handling a call, then somebody needs to know about that instantly, because that customer could become very dissatisfied and decide to basically leave and go to the competition. So what we found from the research is there's an area, the contact center is an area where the need for real-time metrics is much higher than in any other business unit that we've done this kind of research for. And so those things all begin to build up this need to change. And I want to spend the last few minutes looking at this need to change. And it has been recognized. Perhaps the reason why you're listening is that you've recognized the need to change. You're joining a growing band of companies that have seen that they need to change and believe that they can make a significant improvement, 40%, they can make a significant improvement to the way that the contact center is working by upgrading, moving on in terms of their reporting and analytics. And what is becoming apparent is that with this need for real-time analytics, then there's a much higher degree of dissatisfaction with the process. One of the things which, again, is very obvious with spreadsheets, it takes a lot of manual effort. And manual effort takes time. It's prone to mistakes, prone to error. And so what is emerging is that this drive to change is really reflecting on that, and people saying that they're not happy with the process of producing the analytics. And that again, dig into the sources of that dissatisfaction, and this issue is shown up very clearly, that it's too slow. It's hard to build the models and hard to maintain them. Beginning to find that the technology is not adequate. It's not flexible enough. It's maybe good enough to produce those core metrics of things, average handling time and those kind of things. But to produce those more innovative metrics, it's not flexible enough. And it's not able to drive action. As I said, we have a real-time environment which needs action to be taken in real time. And so, you know, those reasons for dissatisfaction, you know, are all around the 40 to 50%, and people are saying, right, it's too slow, too hard. But the core one is that it's not actionable enough. I need information so I can act immediately on a situation. And again, the too slow, looked at it in a bit more detail. How long does it take? Again, it really just jumps out that with the need for real-time analytics, I mean, 23% of companies say they can reduce their analytics in less than a day. 73% are taking 2 or more days. And again, just re-emphasizing this point, for a lot of these metrics, and a lot of the situations that arrive in contacts, then taking 2 days to find out what happened is becoming a real issue for a lot of companies. And again, just quickly reflecting back on that need for all of that data, then the top data that companies are now looking at is the customer. I said we have the executives looking at customer satisfaction. To understand customer satisfaction, you need information about the customer. You need, you know, that, if you like, that CRM data, that billing data. But you need to know customer sentiment. You need to know what customers are saying about you, and basic things like that. And that all needs to be pulled together with how agents are performing and that financial information. If you want to understand the lifetime value of a customer, then you need that customer information, and you need that financial information, and you need to integrate it together. And you can see there's a whole lot of raft of other data that needs to be brought together to produce those innovative metrics. So why change? I mean, change, you wouldn't do change for change's sake, but why change? Well, we already focused on this. The executive wants to improve customer satisfaction, and a lot of talk now is to improve the customer experience. So when the customer's on the phone, what can I do to improve that experience? How can I make sure that they go away more satisfied? And these have jumped to the top of the list of what executives need, and therefore driving the need to change. But again, let's not forget that we're all under cost pressures, and so another reason for changing is to get better information so that we can reduce operational costs. And there again, as I talked about earlier, increasing first contact resolution. So first contact resolution is going to have a direct impact on both the customer experience and customer satisfaction. And that's why we believe that it's jumped into the top 3 metrics that companies are now looking at, and we suspect will possibly overtake average handling time as the #1 metric. But real needs to change as we get more focus on needing information to retain and reduce the cost of servicing customers. And the way to do that, behind all that, is to improve business processes. And I'm talking here very specifically about 2 different types of business processes. You all have business processes for handling interactions. So if you get a call, a sales call, a complaint, you handle them differently. You might not think of them as processes, but you do handle them differently. And so this information is needed to improve the way that those processes work, so that we do get higher first contact resolutions rates, but we do it more efficiently, so we drop, so average handling time doesn't go up to achieve that objective. But also of growing importance is to improve what many would call the back office business processes. I mean, contact centers, call centers are handling calls, other inquiries, because something's happened in the company that's made the customer call up or write in or start an IM session. And being understand why that was, and being able to go back and change those processes so there's less need for customer call is of growing importance. And so the #1 by quite a long mark of driving change is to improve the business processes, both for handling interactions and in the back office, to reduce the number of interactions that are actually occurring. So just to finish and summarize, we've talked about the fact that a lot of use of spreadsheets and a lot of use of tactical metrics. But there's an increasing awareness that that companies can improve the performance of their contact centers, and to do that, they need to move on from this significant use, shall we say, of spreadsheets. And this use of spreadsheets and maybe homegrown systems are, not really capable of handling real-time information and being able to handle these complex data sources. If you're trying to analyze the context of, for example, customer surveys, doing this in a manual so you can then enter the results into a spreadsheet is not going to produce the results in a very timely manner. And this means that contact centers and companies are missing out on all the data that's available to them. Things like call recordings contain vast amount of information about customers, the reasons for them calling, the sentiment of the customers, what they're likely to do next. And the same is true of text. And again, I've talked about the desktop and analyzing that use can point to both improving processes for handling different calls and for actually showing up the root cause of interactions. And so people are doing it, and as I've talked about, people from the maturity model are using new technologies. They are using the voice analytics, text analytics, social analytics, text analytics. These are all products that are now on the market with increasing adoption of. And what we see is another growing need as companies are running multi-channel contact centers to actually pull together information from all the different channels, the voice, the text messages, the SMS messages, the social media, and pull this all together so that you can understand how customers are actually interacting to you and how they're using different channels. And underneath it all, if we're going to meet the needs, the stated needs as we've seen from the research of the executive, centers need to embrace more sophisticated key performance metrics. First call resolution has jumped into the top 3, which is very pleasing, and I don't expect average handling time to go away. But more customer-focused metrics, more outcome metrics, will give centers and the executive a better insight into how the center is contributing to the overall business performance. And I think that all adds up to a very powerful case for change. And so I'm going to hand back to Patrick, who will talk to you about a couple of examples of companies that have changed.
Thank you so much, Richard. Some great insights on your research and some great recommendations. As Richard mentioned, I will be reviewing a few case studies here, so you can see how this new call center reporting or real-time contact center reporting, which has really matured over the past few years, is being implemented successfully. And I'll share some implementation best practices from our experience. I see there's a lot of great questions coming in. One of the most common questions has to do with will the presentation slides be available for download? And yes, they will. We'll send you a link shortly after the webinar with the presentations, a link to download those slides. So I'd like to kind of get started by showing you some of the key steps based on our experience in terms of to ensure your success and really remove risk as you do consolidate your reporting sources and go from maybe monthly to weekly or daily reporting to real-time reporting. And these steps are common among technology implementations within the contact center, but I think it's very important that we review them because it will ensure the success if you follow them. So step one is to define the business problems and really what cost or impact those problems are having, and what are your objectives. You need to have a clear understanding of what your objectives are when you're going out to source a new reporting solution or develop a new reporting solution. And make sure you have the right team involved. So team, you're going to want to have really an executive sponsor, at least one, to really push this project forward. And then you want to involve not only people from various departments within your contact center, but outside the contact center as well. Because what happens when you begin to use real-time reporting and you begin using this actionable information is what happens is you start getting a lot of more interesting information that you can use. It's coming in real time. You need to be able to share it with other departments quickly and have them adjust quickly. There may be something that marketing is doing, or maybe it's a shipping issue or something outside the contact center that if you don't have those relationships built and you don't have them on board with this project or this real-time reporting implementation, then you're really not going to see the full benefits of the reporting solution, because you're going to be getting all this information in real time at all levels of your organization. And if you can't share that information with them, or they're not responding back in near real time, then you're not going to get those benefits. Also, as Richard mentioned, it's really important to determine what KPIs or metrics you want to improve and want to track during an implementation. So you always want to track, the return on investment, and you want to track, the progress on those key metrics that you're trying to push. So whether it is, more efficiency metrics like average handle time, maybe wrap time, or you're getting more into some of the effectiveness measures like, customer satisfaction or quality or first contact resolution. Those need to be identified up front. And then you have to say, all right, in order to solve first contact resolution, what data sources do we need, right? So there may be multiple data sources. There may be a data source to your ACD. There may be one connector to your CRM system, and you may have a connector to your quality monitoring system. Depending on what metrics you want to track, you just have to make sure that you've identified the appropriate data sources. And then we always recommend conducting a measurable pilot. So start off with one department, one site, whatever makes sense for your organization, and do a 45-day, a 60-day, a 90-day pilot. And most companies out there will allow you to do a pilot, so you can really review the pilot results, show the ROI, and develop a business case to move the project forward throughout your entire contact center enterprise. So the first case study I want to share is a company called PNC Bank. They're in the Fortune 200 company, number 123. They have over 50,000 employees, including hundreds of counseling and collections agents. And those are the agents that we work with. Originally worked with National City Bank, and they were recently acquired by PNC. PNC is known for outstanding customer service and satisfaction. In fact, they were just recently named Bank of the Year by Banker magazine, and ranked among the most admired companies by Fortune magazine. And they're really, truly one of those innovative companies out there, and they realize that what they're doing with real-time reporting is really a competitive advantage. So the business challenges and pain points that they had were really a lack of manager visibility into their business metrics. They had data in silos, and it was not in real time. It was after the fact, after things happened, and they really couldn't take action on the things that were happening within the contact center. So there were operational inefficiencies that did increase cost and lower productivity. Another issue they had was there's very little to no agent accountability at the front line. So agents didn't really have visibility into their performance metrics, right? It was typically a weekly report at the end of the week. In some cases, it was even a monthly report. So, that resulted, or the consequences, if they would have moved forward with that, it was really low productivity. And then they've invested so much into their employees and into getting these agents and really not maximizing the value of those agents. So another thing is really getting ongoing training, right? They have a lot of different, being in the financial service industry, there's a need for a lot of ongoing training and updates and refresher courses, new regulations, new programs, new campaigns. And it was really challenging to get the agents into the classroom for ongoing training. And, when you bring all agents into a classroom for training, the agents are only as fast as the instructor is, and not all agents may need that training. Some agents may be doing exceptional on whatever that topic is. So it wasn't really targeted, and it affected retention rates because even the best agents need refresher courses or need updates, and they want to feel like they're getting ongoing coaching on new things. So retention rates were an issue if they didn't do something about it, and then also increases cost. So their objectives in looking at a real-time contact center reporting solution, they wanted more efficient use of their employees. So again, the majority of the costs within the contact center are employee resources, and really trying to maximize the value of those resources. So they want to identify underperformers earlier so they could address those skill gaps quicker. And then they wanted to improve agent performance. And these are the key metrics. We talked about when you're building a pilot, you need to define the key metrics that you want to move. And those key metrics, in their case, were quality of service, collections results, talk time, after-call processing time, and abandon rates. So, those are the things they wanted to track. They wanted to make agents be able to self-monitor themselves and make them aware of where they stood versus their goals and versus their group. Cost control, cost reduction was very important, so they wanted to reduce FTEs so they could use those agents for other things within the organization, and wanted to increase productivity in terms of the number of calls per hour, not only agent productivity, but manager productivity as well. So they wanted to consolidate and automate the sending of performance data to agents with a real focus on coaching. So if agents fall below certain metrics, they would receive automated coaching and messages. And they wanted to make their operations more agile. So they wanted to make decisions in real time, but they didn't want this technology to be disruptive in any way, and really looking for some immediate benefits. So in partnering with PNC, and it's key to see that, the reason, we rated really highly in customer assurance in the Ventana Research benchmarking studies, one of the reasons is we really do partner with our customers, and we really do that in order to ensure that they're successful. And so what we did is we built a business case with them, worked closely with the dialer and the IT teams, and also with the Avaya team. They have a Avaya infrastructure. We work a lot with other providers as well, like Cisco and Aspect and some of these other providers. And the key was getting a project sponsor. So the VP of Consumer Lending was really new to the organization, was really the VP of positive change, if you will. And it's key that you do have an executive sponsor that really wants to move the company forward, and make sure, they essentially drive that project and create visibility, or help you create visibility. The three key decision milestones in order to move forward after the 60-day pilot were ROI, what is the return on our investment? IT needed to give the blessing. It needed to be easy for IT. They had several projects they're already working on. They didn't want to, deal with developing additional software or having to do anything that would take too much of their time. In fact, they even looked at the possibility of developing a homegrown solution, but it was just too cost effective, and the timing would have taken too long. They also looked at reader boards, but the reader boards weren't giving agent level information, so it was more group level information. And then they did, they did the research, did customer site visits, and checked several references, and everything checked out okay. So the solution they identified, they had 3 sites at the time. They went with our VPI performance solution, which is our real-time contact center reporting solution. And they had 3 ACDs, 4 dialers, 2 payment systems, and 1 collection system that they wanted to consolidate all the information from. So here's an example of one of the reports below. This happens to be a dialer report, and there's just some list of the dialer reports available. We have several dozens of out-of-the-box reports for each of the main ACD, PBX, and dialer systems. And we also can easily create custom reports that combine that information together. And I'll show you that in the next case study of how all the information is consolidated into reports. And all these reports, you can drill through on them. They're real-time. You drill down through, and you can get all the way down to the agent level from an enterprise level really quickly. They also, and this is a really fantastic feature, and I've seen this in dozens of contact centers, and it's amazing how if you put these real-time desktop tickers in front of agents, what it does. I mean, especially if you're in any type of sales environment, if your agents do any type of upselling, any type of collections, it's just phenomenal to see what happens if you start empowering agents with all the metrics that they're being measured on or compensated on, and put them in front of them. So here's an example of a ticker, collections agent ticker. We're showing them promises to pay, utilization, metrics from a variety of different systems. Promise to pay comes from the collection system. You have the talk time and wrap time coming from the telephony systems. And then you have messaging. So you can send messages out to all agents, in real time, or you can have messages triggered on, either, poor performance on a metric or a combination of metrics, or positive performance. It's important that, when agents do things well, that you reinforce that positive behavior. Hey, just sending them a message saying, automatically, it could be, notice you're doing fantastic in this area. Congratulations. Keep up the great work. Very important to do that as well. Here's an example. I put an example of the ticker we use, the desktop ticker we use in our own help desk here. So you can get an idea of how easy it is to modify these and basically drag and drop the metrics that are important to you into the tickers. You can have agent tickers, manager tickers, supervisor tickers, executive tickers, and they could be as thin or as thick as you like. They can dock to the side of the screens. They can dock to above your application, so they're always on if you'd like, and then agents can always see where they're at. But in the zoom-in shot here, you could see some of the things we track as current status in our help desk, overall activity, service levels, all the ACD information, tickets open, closed, and that kind of information. So extremely customizable and great to get that information out in real time to the agents and managers. The other thing they implemented were agent scorecards. And scorecards, essentially, you click on your ticker if you're an agent, and you'll be presented with your scorecard. And again, you can see all the metrics that are important to you that you're being tracked on versus your target and versus the group result. And agents can click on the daily, the weekly, monthly tabs there to see exactly where they're at for month to date, for the week, and daily. So very valuable there to give them that insight as well. They also identified an integrated training solution, and that's what we call VPI coaching. But essentially what it does is it presents agents with their coaching assignments, my coaching assignments, and these are triggered either, again, based off of thresholds and metrics that you set based off business rules, or they can be sent out if it's a new campaign or a new program that needs to be sent out to each agent. It can be done, and they can be prioritized. And the beauty is they can also be integrated with your workforce management. So you can create a coaching job in workforce management, and when the queues are low or it's important that certain agents get training, they can, during that coaching job, let's say the coaching job is 10 minutes, there's a PDF you'd like them to read and then take a short quiz. They could take that, they could open the PDF, take the quiz during that period, and then at the end of that coaching job, if they're still not completed, it'll force them to go back onto the phone, and then it'll remember where they're at in that coaching session. And next time workforce management allows them to take coaching, then they will resume at the point where they left off. So it's really a fantastic tool in terms of, one of the issues they had was they weren't able to really effectively do ongoing coaching and consistently across all teams and supervisors and all agents. So this allows you to consistently schedule coaching, ongoing refresher coaching, and not only schedule it, but the tracking of what was delivered, what was taken, even how long they took on each question within the quiz can be tracked. So very nice reporting in terms of coaching and messaging delivery and performance on those coaching assignments. So what were the business benefits? So within 60 days after the pilot, essentially what they did is they achieved a 16% increase in outbound talk time, 11.8% blended calls per hour, 34% increase in average speed of answer, and a 37% improvement in abandoned inbound. So there's some fantastic measures in terms of improvement, and they were able to take those results and really develop a great cost justification business case to their executives to really roll that out to all their sites. They're at 3 sites now and soon to be at 4 sites. And some of the other benefits were really easy to implement. It's a point-and-click interface, little or no learning curve, and low cost of ownership and easy to customize. I think that's one of the key things that they really enjoyed is the ease of customization, to be ability to create these custom tickers and scorecards and reports. Now another case study is 1-800-Flowers, and when we initially implemented 1-800-Flowers, they had mainly brick and mortar agents. They were one of the first companies to move to at-home agents, and now essentially almost all of their agents are at home. So they've effectively transitioned those agents from the brick and mortar facilities to at-home agents. So if that's something that you've been thinking about is, hey, we might do a pilot for at-home agents. We might be going that way, or maybe we already have several at-home agents. This technology is all web-based, so it's fantastic across not only sites and different systems, but across remote agents as well. So, and remote agents benefit, I think, personally, even more from the ones that I've spoken with, and of having real-time information and scorecards presented to them, because they are remote. They don't always have that attachment. And my wife is an at-home agent, and she doesn't have that personal attachment of being able to talk to people all the time. So knowing where you're at all times and getting the updated, the coaching courses and the messages is really helpful. So what their challenge was, they had several locations and services. They provide multiple brands, so not just flowers, but fantastic brands related to home goods and popcorn and chocolate and all these different types of brands that they've acquired over the years and supported. They had multiple internal sites, outsourced partners that handled email and overnight sales calls and things like that, and a very complex technology environment. Again, At 1-800-Flowers, we connect to 18 different systems there as well. So here's an example of a consolidated report. The reports basically contain information from multiple different systems, so you can view really one single view of the truth, which is key to 1-800-Flowers for all their different brands. They have several personalized real-time desktop tickers as well, so for different departments. As you can see for the second ticker there, it actually does rotate. So there's rotate, through messaging, through training. Agents can click on their training courses from there, and then it shows them their metrics. They also have different tickers depending on what brand is calling in. They get different tickers presented to them. Here's an example of their scorecard. So when agents drill down on the tickers to the scorecard, they can see their target, agent result, and group result. And some of the key metrics for 1-800-Flowers have to do with conversion percentage, and they've integrated real-time alerts and messaging. So if their conversion percentage falls below 50% and they've taken at least 10 calls, then they will receive an alert as well as the managers will as well. Average sale, if that's less than $52 per sale and they've taken 10 orders that day, they'll also receive reminders as well and can receive coaching as well. And then, as Richard mentioned, customer satisfaction is becoming very important today to executives, and they do measure that as well. So they pull information from the survey system, and they present that information as well. And they send thresholds, messaging thresholds to managers and agents if their sales or service satisfaction scores fall below these thresholds. Here's a coaching report card. So again, I mentioned that you can track the time spent on the coaching courses, when they were taken, whether they were passed or not. So very valuable information there as well. And the significance benefits realized were 5 additional sales per agent per day. And this is after the pilot, and they used this to take the solution enterprise-wide, and a 3% increase in sales conversion. They're also able to significantly reallocate their FTEs, the number of agents, and were recently awarded the ICMI Call Center of the Year. So they're very, again, a leading-edge strategic innovator in terms of some of the things they're doing to achieve a competitive advantage with real-time reporting and integrated e-learning. Here are just some other case studies. Verizon collections environment, that 5% increase in dollars collected equated to millions of dollars, and house value saw a 3% increase in overall revenue within the first 6 months as a result of using real-time reporting. So I realize we're getting down to the end of the hour here, and wanted to let you know that the research that Richard Ventana presented is available for download at vpi-corpcrp.com/whitepapers, and has 15 strategic recommendations, many of which he covered here, but you can see more detail on that research, and we invite you to download that there. We also have several great questions coming in, and for those of you who'd like to stay on the line, we'll go ahead and ask those questions. So first one's for you, Richard. What are the advantages of purchasing a specialized contact center reporting solution over using our enterprise BI system?
Good question. As you can see, the enterprise BI is still quite popular. I see it possibly quite simply, and it goes back to a point that I made, and Patrick is very well illustrated in his case studies, which is the heart of this problem is accessing data. The more data you can access, the better the information that you can provide. The more data you can access quicker, the better you can produce real-time reports. And the thing about the contact center specific systems is they come with pre-built interfaces to lots of the common systems, such as the ACDs, even some of the CRM systems, and many of them come with tools and advice on how to build interfaces to specialist systems. Whereas if you're using your enterprise BI system, you're probably going to face a long period of development just to be able to extract that data from all those different kinds of systems. And when we talk about some of the newer sources of systems, such as call recordings, text messages, customer surveys, social media, then again, in all probability, it's going to take a long time for IT and a lot of resources to develop those interfaces to get those systems. So the very distinct advantage of going with the specialist systems is that they come with these pre-built extractors and with tools to build new ones. So that's why I think that's the great advantage of using a specialist system.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Richard. I know we have dozens of pre-built connectors and are partners with most of the major contact center software providers, so we're always in their lab. When they come out with new versions, we're always testing on those versions just to make sure that doesn't affect your environment in any way. There's some questions around those types of systems, CRM systems, things like that. So if there's not a pre-built connector ready, then we have generic connectors to workforce management, CRM systems as well that are very easily customized, and they plug in directly into the reporting solution. So we can go to the back end to most major open databases, and then there's also another option. You mentioned, Richard, desktop analytics. One of the the greatest new technologies out there allows you to take the data directly from the desktop application screen. So, if there's fields or buttons or anything that shows up on the agent's applications, you can pull that information directly from the screen without even having to do a back-end integration. So if you're using Salesforce.com or any other type of CRM system, or maybe a collection system that you've developed in-house, or you have a commercial collection system, then you can just literally pull that information directly from the application screens by drawing a box around the fields you want information to be captured from. So that's another option as well. There's a lot of options to get that data, and like Richard said, these are developed specifically for contact centers. And another thing they do is they make all that information actionable within the contact center, which I think is a really key point as well. So thanks, Richard. Appreciate that. And then another question is for you. How would you recommend building a business case to invest in one of these contact center reporting solutions?
Well, that's a very good question, and it's a question we're asked lots and lots about all sorts of BI analytics reporting systems. It seems to be one of the hardest things for companies to do. But I think the key actually goes back to what Patrick said and his implementation technology. The thing to do is look at the metrics that are important to your company. And as I've hopefully illustrated, these are changing. Look at the metrics which are important to your management. And look to see, by creating that information, how those producing that information can change the outcome, can let people take action. Again, Patrick said it with both case studies. It's about getting information to take action. So getting information for information's sake is pretty difficult to build a case for that. But if you start saying, well, if we can improve the upsells to customers, because now we're starting measuring it, then you can build a business case which says, well, if I produce that information and I get a 3% increase in upsales, then that's going to be worth this amount of money. So very key thing, I think, is identifying those outcome metrics, as we talk about, looking at what's important to the business, and then build a case which says by producing actionable information about those, we can actually drive change and therefore drive up those results.
Great, thank you so much. One more question. Would you recommend a standalone solution or a bundle into a suite of products?
Again, a great question. Again, asked quite a lot. And I think it's going to depend on where you are and what systems you have in place. It's going to have a major impact on that, and maybe your overall strategy for purchasing, applications, or maybe even looking at hosted solutions. So I think a lot is going to depend on that. But I think one of the distinct advantages of going with a bundled system, it comes back to this point of actionability. If you use a standalone system, you're going to get reports, and yes, they could raise alerts. They can change, they can change the buttons to different colors and say to people, look at this, something needs to be done about it. But having integration with key systems in the contact center, like workforce management, like training and coaching systems, and being able to take that information and feed that into those systems. So, and I'm talking about not just having that sort of technical integration ability, but being able to integrate the processes together. So to say, this agent is not doing very well at handling this kind of call, and being able to take that information, that metric, and using it to kick off workflow or alerts or transaction into systems that are automatically going to get them to take some action based on that information. So I think that's a distinct advantage, but in the end, I think it's going to come down a lot to where you are today and what the overall strategy is for purchasing new applications.
Great, thank you, Richard. Well, we appreciate everyone's time today, and any questions we weren't able to get to, we will address one-on-one with you. And just thank you so much, and we look forward to the opportunity to working with you and speaking with you about some of your challenges and your objectives and some potential solutions that we may have for you. So thank you so much for your time, Richard, Lauren, and everyone on the webcast today, and have a wonderful afternoon.